G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle. I wanted to do a video today that talks about my Space Crusade redo. I finished the tiles pretty much last night. It's been a lot of fun. Using the Zone Mortalis tiles and that from Necromunda in order to make up some new, battle tiles. So I had this really detailed board to go with all the new models and stuff. It's looking great. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today, because that would be too much fun. Instead, what we're going to talk about today is what's going on with Warhammer 40,000. Now, I've noticed there were a couple of videos that caught my eye this week. One was Chapter Master Valrak talking about the fact that there's some new Marine characters coming out, some new Marine units, Primaris Heavy Intercessors, and a different Primaris Captain. It's not all about Lieutenants anymore, guys. Captains are a thing too. There's also a Primaris Landspeeder, but we knew that was coming. And it made me think, because I saw another video this week that Kirioth put out, which is a good little video. It's a pair of them, on the Neglect Olympics. Which is basically just looking at what range has essentially got no love in a long time. And to give you a clue, some of these ranges haven't had anything in the better part of 7-8 years, except for maybe a single character or so. And it got me thinking, because I was looking and new Warhammer 40,000 starter sets are here. And of course, Warhammer 40,000 starter sets just means a Primaris starter set. Yay! Look, starter sets have been wrong for a long time. Even when I got into the hobby, I wasn't a fan of the starter sets, because you had to pay a crap load of money for what I saw as a little reward, because I wasn't playing the factions that were in the starter sets personally. So, case in point, back when I was a kid, and 3rd edition dropped, okay? Imagine this, I'm 10 years old, maybe 11, something like that, when 3rd edition hits. They release a starter set for 150 Australian dollars. It has half Black Templars / Space Marines of whatever type you chose to paint, but a lot of people painted the Black Templars. It came with Tactical Squad, Landspeeder. It came with a bunch of plastic palm trees and some cool little ruins. Still one of my favourite terrain pieces today, those little ruins. Came with a bunch of Dark Eldar as well. That was the starter set. Okay, cool. Neat little starter set at the time. But it was $150. And 150 Australian dollars back then was actually quite a lot of money. I think it was like $28, I'm going to say, for a 10-man tactical box at the time. So roughly 5 times the cost of a tactical box. So in Australian money today, paying for a $72 Tactical Marines box, you'd be looking at somewhere around the $350 mark. So it was quite expensive. And it was not something I decided to do, because I didn't feel that buying that box with the rules would combine well with the fact that I was trying to collect Chaos in that edition. So if you're trying to collect Chaos, and you have to go out and you have to buy a box which has 2 armies in it, 2 factions, neither of which interest you, and because of things like land speeders and that aren't usable by Chaos at all, especially back in 3rd edition, there was no real crossover there with the models. Like, okay, I could use some Space Marine bits maybe, but Chaos Marines and Space Marines back then looked very, very different to one another. These are the sort of 1st, 2nd generation multi-pose Marine plastic kits where you glued on each arm individually, that kind of thing, versus Chaos, which their Marines at the time were still monopose miniatures. Most people built their armies. I think it's Death Guard was a pretty common one. For Chaos, it was Khorne Berserkers were a huge one, and the Plague Marines, they had like a little plague knife they held in their hand, and you glued on like one arm, which was holding a bolter, sort of gunslinging it from the hip. And so at the time, it was like, well, you know what? How am I going to get into this hobby? Because it was so expensive. And I was like, okay, I'll buy a tape measure from the hardware store, a $2 shop for cheap as chips. I grabbed some dice from some old board games that I had in the cupboard, as most people have, you know. My basing material, I think, was just a bag of sand from the local hardware store, because, again, it was cheap. And I would save up my money and buy boxes of marine infantry and stuff wherever I could, and converted characters and stuff. And I did a generally terrible job, I think we can all agree to if you ever look back on the miniatures I made. But the thing is, that was the entry level for me as an ordinary kid. I mean, I wasn't poor growing up, I wasn't rich either. I think I was sort of on that lower middle income end. And, you know, it wasn't like mum was spending a lot of money on the hobby for me, because she had to do things like, you know, pay for a fucking house, keep a roof over her head. You know, she's working full time, I'm at school. So I couldn't just go out and drop all this money on a starter set. And so even today, I look at these starter sets and I'm like, why are you doing this, Games Workshop? A starter set to me should be faction specific. They should all be equal matched points in these start collecting boxes, so that one start collecting box can go head to head with another and they've both got an equal chance of winning the game. You should be able to go in and buy your start collecting box. It should come with a rulebook, like as in a start collecting Warhammer 40,000 box, as opposed to start collecting the faction box. It should come with your rulebook, obviously the units, tape measure or ruler, some dice, maybe even part of a fold-out battlefield that matches up with part of a fold-out battlefield. And your mate can go in and they can buy the starter faction of their choice. Because right now, say you play two completely different factions to this. What if you play Tyranids and Dark Eldar? Okay? You buy Tyranids and Dark Eldar, and you look at this box here. What's the value to you? You get some crappy cardboard terrain. I don't care. You get some dice. You get a couple of crappy rulers. Well, look, dice and rulers are bloody cheap. $20 on eBay will get you a beautiful retractable tape measure and some dice. The rules, are you even paying for the rules here? Because the big way they always used to sell starter sets to you was, hey, you know, it's only like twice as much as the rules on their own. And look how many miniatures you get in it. What great value. As if it's not all hyperinflated. And so I just don't think it's viable. Like, if you want to get into this hobby, you have to go out, you have to buy a starter set that you don't need, in the hopes that some of it, like dice and tape measure and rules, are going to be useful to you. That's no good. That's no help. That doesn't help kids get into this hobby. It just leaves them stuck with a bunch of Necron warriors and Space Marines they don't need. And people will say, oh, but, you know, you can go on and sell that stuff on eBay if you don't want it. Yeah, you can. But kids aren't really that savvy. Kids don't generally have their own personal eBay account. They'd have to rope an adult into it, and an adult's not going to know what's what with these models, and that's too complicated, too convoluted. Okay? Yeah, if you're a 20-something and you buy into this hobby and you don't need what's in this starter set, yeah, you can throw it on eBay. But that's kind of getting very specific, isn't it? Like, why should I have to go out, buy a starter set, most of the stuff I don't need, and then take all the other stuff and then go put it on eBay and sell it off? Like, that's a lot of extra work on my behalf. You know, things that are convenient for the consumer are generally considered to be better things. It's how the music industry stopped piracy, by making music really quick and easy to get hold of for cheap or even free. It ended piracy for music. Well, I mean, it's still out there, I guess, but it is functionally ended. Because people can go, oh, I want to listen to this song, and they just open YouTube, open iTunes, whatever, quickly type in the name of the song, Spotify, whatever, and bam, there it is. They don't have to go up and, you know, hop on Pirate Bay, scroll through for a torrent, and you know, none of that. None of that's a thing anymore. Same sort of thing with Warhammer 40,000. What is quick and convenient for the player? And this is not quick and convenient unless you're collecting Necrons or Space Marines. And even then, the people who come in and buy it, what if they don't want those factions? This is just assuming that you get two people to come in together, each put in half of the box amount to buy this to get into the game. Doesn't work in my world. And this leads me into those two videos Velrak and Kirioth did. Go check out Kirioth's videos. It's pretty entertaining if you ask me. I got a good chuckle out of it, looking at the age of some of the units and thinking to myself, I remember when that was new. Primaris Marines, a quick count. Just a just a quick count. You know, there are things I guaranteed I would have missed, but I counted 59 new Primaris units within 3 years. 59 units. So, the Neglect Olympics, by the way, was Kirioth looking at different factions that have been released in 40,000 and how long it's been since they got a proper update, as in model range. And yes, some of them it's crazy, especially when you consider the fact that things like Eldar Guardians, Khorne Berserkers, Orc Boys, they all date back to the late 90s. Yeah. And meanwhile, the Primaris Marines, 59 new releases. And it got me thinking, when was something equivalent to this last done? When was the last time a faction as a whole got a rework, an overview? Because when it comes to the Space Marines, essentially they've taken all the ideas of the old Space Marines and they're trying to cut paste over the top of them with all this new Primaris shit that I don't care for. Not that I hate all the models, I think there's some really nice looking sculpts in there, but they could have just been a true scaling, let's face it. What they've done is release, as I said, 59 units that I counted. I looked back, and the biggest sort of complete faction overhaul I could find was the Dark Eldar in 5th edition. Because essentially the entire range, except for Asdrubal Vect's custom raider, was redone. And it was only about 12 units. Yeah. It was your basic Cabal warriors. There was the Scourges. There was Witches. There was Venoms. There was Raiders. There was Tellus. There was their new flyer that they got, and that there is 7 units. And that's most of the range. Other than that, it was just characters left. So, not exactly... Hellions and jet bikes, that's 9 in characters. 9 in characters. And I think it was 6 characters. So it was about 12 to 15 units. And that was it. That was the first redo they got of their range since the year 1998/1999, when they released the Dark Eldar as a proper faction. Grey Knights, they had basically a box of Space Marines, a box of Terminators, and a baby carrier. And that was their entire complete redo, overhaul of their faction, and that occurred back in 2011, I'm going to say. Maybe late 2010. And since then, nothing. Except, well, they got Voldorus, or whatever it is, the Grey Knight Master that come in the Triumvirate of the Imperium box. One character doesn't count. And essentially that's it. Now, granted, some of these boxes, they're multi-pose. You can make multiple units out of the one box, that kind of thing. But then, compare that to the Primaris Marines. 59 units, plus what's still to come, plus little things I might have missed, like, special characters and stuff for specific chapters, and... Why? Why is all the love going to the one faction? Because I get it, Space Marines sell, but has it occurred to no one Space Marines sell really well because they're constantly getting updates, they're constantly getting love, they're constantly getting new rules, new codexes, new models, and nobody else is. And it's so in your face. Every bit of marketing has a Space Marine on it. And I get it, they're iconic, they're cool. Space Marines are cool as shit. Yeah, I get it. You know what else is cool as shit? Necrons, Tyranids, Dark Eldar. When was the last time someone saw something released for the Imperial Guard / the Astra Militarum, to use the copyright-friendly name? Right? Don't think characters, okay? Characters don't count, because characters do not define a faction. That's why they don't count. You can't just release a model and then go, oh, that faction's up to date. No, it's your core infantry, okay? Your heavily armoured vehicles, your big walkers, that kind of thing. The Sentinels are essentially 1990s era plastics. The plastic Sentinel was released with the Catachans in 1999, when the Catachans got their plastics. The same Catachan plastics that are still in production today. you also have the Cadians. The Cadians got their plastics re-release in, I think it was 2003, maybe even late 2002. What about the Lehman Russ tanks? Well, the Lehman Russ tanks have had a mold overhaul over the years. All the white metal turrets that they had, and some Forge World resin turrets actually, became plastic turrets integrated into the sprue, but more or less the Lehman Russ is still the same Lehman Russ that it was when I was a kid, and I'm a 32-year-old adult. Same thing with Eldar. I have the White Dwarf where the Falcon Grav tank is released. It's from the 90s. The basic Eldar Warriors, from the 90s. Things like that. Aspect Warriors / the Phoenix Lords, mid-90s. 94, 95. Jess Goodwin sculpts. And some of them have held up over, time. But many haven't. There's a few that got a slight rework. I think Striking Scorpions, Dire Avengers, both of those definitely got a rework around the 2003 Eldar Codex. But Wraithlord, he went to plastic in that same codex, was white metal up to that point, had an incredibly heavy head and a tiny little body, and you can imagine what it was like gluing those bastards together. So I'm looking at all this stuff and the Kirioth Neglect Olympics, I'm thinking, this is easy money in my mind. If Games Workshop just followed these simple changes, that's not to say that they're not making money. Yes, they're making money, but they could be doing better for less work if they did it my way. Okay? Who would prefer to be able to buy into a game and buy their preferred starter set, buy their codex or their rules and that kind of stuff all in the one box? Wouldn't that be great? Okay? Especially people entering the game. If you took a kid now and you said, hey, blind test, which of these do you like more? And you showed them a picture of different codex cover art, right? Tyranids, or Necron Warriors, or maybe the Tau, right? And let the kid pick. And then the kid picks something that's basically not Necrons and Ultramarines. And then you say, okay, cool. Well, to buy into this game, little Jimmy. To buy into this game, you now have to go out and buy this starter set here. Okay, this is going to give you some of your rules you need. But then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go over here and buy this codex, which gives you some more of the rules you need. Now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to come over here and buy this start collecting box, which is going to give you some of the units you need. Now that you've got your start collecting box, got your codex, got your rules, you can start to look at some guys up. But sorry, forgot. Now you're going to have to buy some glue, some paint, some stuff to clean the models up with. How quickly is this starting to add up? How viable does this seem for a kid? Now, Indominus is selling record numbers around the world. That's great, but people are also morons. They sold out a $350 rulebook with the same page count as a $90 rulebook. People are dumb. And I'm not going to say Indominus is a bad box, but people are dumb. Okay? Games Workshop's making money, yes, but they're making money by charging an absolute shitload for their product. And it's not right, because you deserve to look after yourself with your purchases. Spend your money wisely, that kind of thing. And new blood getting into this hobby is what keeps the hobby alive, not a bunch of hipsters in their 20s going out and buying Indominus, then posting pictures of their unopened box of Indominus on social media like somehow it's a fucking achievement to spend money. That is not an achievement, that's retarded. And I don't mean retarded as in to pick on the disabled, I mean retarded as in the dictionary definition. It's not quite right. So, this is all problematic to me. And I'm looking at it going, how can you take things like the aforementioned Khorne Berserkers or the Eldar Guardians, they're all 1990s models, cut the box quantities of infantry in half, and then still charge double for the boxes over what you charged back then? Something's not quite right here. So, all of this stuff has just been building up in my head, and I'm going, geez, I really need to talk about this, because I touched on a few of these subjects in the live streams I've occasionally done, because people have brought it up, what do you think of this or this model? And I watch the Neglect Olympics, and I see these new units that are coming out on Valrak's video, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is the end game? Because think about it with me, guys. if you're Games Workshop and you want to replace the Space Marine range completely, right? You want a white ant it. You want the termites to go in, eat the entire range. They never existed. It's all Primaris now. Okay, fine. You replace your veteran units with your new Blade Guard veteran units. You replace all your Marines with close combat weapons, with your Primaris Marines with close combat weapons, etc., etc. Once you have completely reworked or rejigged a faction, done over all their old models, generally what is done is you then leave the faction alone. You don't touch it for a few years. At least 5, generally 10 seems to be the going rule with Games Workshop. 10 years, you don't touch that faction again because you're like, good, look, the faction has now got all the stuff it needs in order to be viable. We'll come back to it later. You see this especially prominent with, again, 40k armies like the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, the Tyranids. These factions go a very long time without releases because they're going, look, what they've got is good enough, the quality of the models is pretty good, it's all a consistent level, and then they go off and they work on something else. I don't see them doing that with the Primaris Marines. I think they're going to keep releasing units and filling niches that don't need to be filled, because that's the other thing. When you release models for a range, you want to release them to do a certain job. And when they all start covering each other's jobs and you're starting to get duplicates, okay, that's when you're starting to make unnecessary crap for your faction. And Primaris Marines are starting to stray into the unnecessary crap area. Like, okay, they needed some close combat potential, this is true. But all the extra tanks and grab vehicles and stuff like that, and again, the Primaris Lieutenants, how many Primaris Lieutenants are there? If we don't need them, why do we keep getting them? Look at Age of Sigmar. There are factions in Age of Sigmar, whole factions, quote unquote, which only have about 14 different units in them, and half of those are just multi-poses of the exact same unit, just armed differently. Like, hey, I gave this captain a sword instead of a club. He's now a completely different type of captain. Wow, 2 complete new kits. Yeah, that's Age of Sigmar thinking. They release 14 miniatures for a range and consider that done, and then they just don't revisit it for who knows how long with Age of Sigmar. Think of the Dwarf Fire Slayers. It's a great example of that, okay? Sorry, I've just decided to quickly open up Age of Sigmar, just so I can have a quick look at it, just to confirm my hypothesis isn't completely... Okay, 16 things in the Fire Slayers set. Right, this is considered a fully fleshed out faction. What is the 16 things? Okay, so let's remove rules. So the 2 battle tomes. So we're down to 14. If we remove the piece of terrain, we're down to 13. If we remove the spells, the endless spells cast by them, we're down to 12. Okay. These 3 fucking lizards here is all the same model. So let's drop another 2 off that. We're down to 10 models. The Hearthguard Berserkers and the Auric Hearthguard. They're the same box, I believe. 99% sure that's the exact same box. Just quickly double check. Alternatively, you can... Yeah, so they're the same box. So we can drop it down by yet another model. So really the range is... Well, let's remove the start collecting as well, because that's just a conglomeration of existing stuff. So the Doomseeker, the Chosen Axes. So that's 2. Volkite Berserkers, 3. Grimwraith Berserker, 4. Battlesmith, 5. Hearthguard, 6. Runefather, 7. And Runemaster, 8. There's 8 models in this faction. Actual useful models for your games. 8 different kits. Alright. Let's look at another faction. Dollar Jeepkin. Oh, there we go. 18. Alright, so let's remove the start collecting box, because again, it's a conglomeration or amalgamation of existing stuff. So, down to 17. There are 2 rules, get rid of those. Down to 15. Remove the Gloomtide Shipwreck. Down to 14. Remove the 2 different versions of Eidolon from there. Turn one of the... Basically half the entire range, essentially, because there's that many double ups. So it's really just some Namadi thralls. Your 1, 2, 3, 4 special characters. a character on a horse, a turtle, and a shark, and a set of eels. That's the faction. So these are considered full factions. Point is, in this long-winded scenario, that if you compare that to, say, Warhammer 40,000, and even if I type in we'll just type Primaris in, and just see what we get just from typing the word Primaris in. How many results we get? We get 5 pages, 55 results, just from the word Primaris. Now, granted, let's get rid of the Indomitus from that. Let's get rid of the starter set. Get rid of the little getting started with Warhammer 40,000. So that's 3 off it. So that takes down to 52. Let's remove the first strike and the paint set. Yep, so that's down to 50. And remove these 2 Primaris collection boxes at the very end. And the Primaris Heroes, because that's just double up of existing ones. So that's 47. On this page alone, which is missing models, that's 47 right there. Doesn't even have everything. For example, it's only got one version of the repulsor tank, you know, that kind of thing. But anyway, 47 right there, just typing the word Primaris in. That's not even going through and finding every single character, every combination. For instance, no Marnie's Kelga. Oh, yeah, it's Marnie's Kelga. Never mind. So, 47 right there. Plus whatever stuff is coming. This is a joke at this point, okay? It's a fucking joke. Because if they fully flesh out this faction, the Space Marines, are they then going to not touch them for 10 years? I highly, highly doubt it. It is very dubious to think this. I think if they fully flesh out the Space Marine range, they're going to just start rejigging models or trying to ham-handedly fist things into different holes where there are no holes. They'll go, oh geez, now we've got Plasma and Melter Squads. Well, we're going to need Flamers. And there'll be Primaris, I don't know, Pyro Blasters or something, you know? And it'll be a Primaris unit all armed with long-ass flamethrowers to go with the fact that, hey, they've got melter guns, they've got plasma, whoa! And then they'll probably have, like, Primaris Vulpines or something, which will be Primaris dudes armed with Volkite weapons. Yeah, Chaos should have the Volkite weapons, but fuck it, Primaris do. Just like they got all the Grav Tech, because Primaris. Yeah, that's the way I see them going with this faction, and they need to stop it. There are armies that haven't been updated since the 90s, or had very minimal updates since then. Again, Eldar. We're looking at the Eldar. There are a whole bunch of Aspect Warriors and Phoenix Lords which need doing. And hey, it's a great time in the setting with the Necrons being back and all, to do something with the Eldar, to get them involved in the fight. So, how's about we get on that, Games Workshop? Anyway, back with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully I have something more fun later in the week, and see you all next time.